from Lagos, Nigeria. This is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Stakeholders at News Central's town hall meeting on Rivers state of emergency call for sincerity in addressing political crisis. House of Representatives to probe technical glitches which led to mass failure of candidates in 2025 UTME. Ukraine's delegation heads for Istanbul as President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is not serious about peace talks.
In business, President Tinubu revises procurement guidelines for ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government. And in sports, Nigeria's Flying Eagles lose to South Africa in the semi-final of the Under-20 African Cup of Nations.
Thank you for tuning in. Tonight begins now. As part of the ongoing mission to amplify citizens' voices and hold power accountable, the fastest growing broadcasting station in Africa, News Central, has held another town hall in Rivers State, Nigeria's South-South region. The event brought together critical stakeholders to address the state's challenges, including the imposed state of emergency. Now, participants discussed the root causes of the crisis and proposed practical solutions aimed at restoring peace and stability. News Central's Israel Iferobo now reports.
In the heart of a tense and divided Rivers State, News Central's Town Hall series held its latest edition in Port Harcourt, bringing together politicians, traditional leaders, civil society, youth advocates, and concerned citizens in an emotionally charged, often heated conversation about the political turmoil gripping the state.
In our state and in Nigeria, not just now, governance has become personalized. And when the personalities, the expectations are no longer met, you see the pot begin to boil.
At a point, there was a pressure, and we could feel the pressure from the utterances of people within the state. The former governor would make utterances, and those who follow him will make utterances, but the utterances always bordered on one thing: who owns the state?
The town hall turned rowdy at some point. Tempers flared as representatives of opposing political factions clashed over the origin of the crisis and the role of political actors in escalating the breakdown.
For you to be elected, first of all, you must be backed by one single individual. And now that individual now brings you up either to the party or to the masses, where people will now gather generally to elect you. You don't just succeed by coming out on your own and want to impose yourself upon the people.
The point is, somebody somewhere who thinks that he is the owner of River State, who thinks that he is the owner of River State, took this position and influenced. You spoke. You said you spoke. You took that position. No. I am person like you, right?
Hold on. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Please.
Yet, through the noise, a common thread emerged: the urgent need for reconciliation and transparent dialogue.
So what I can only say is, let's give peace a chance, and the time is now. So at that point, may God bless us, guide us as we heal.
In my own understanding, I have dissected the whole thing. He committed no infraction, so there was not supposed to be any crisis ab initio.
The crisis began because of godfatherism in Nigerian politics. Now, this led to Rivers State having two parallel houses of assemblies, where one was loyal to the FCT minister and another loyal to the sitting governor.
To appeal to all parties concerned.
The town hall ended with a resounding call for peace, transparency, and an inclusive reconciliation framework that involves neutral actors, traditional leaders, civil society, and credible mediators.
Will you be saying to Barrister Nyesom that Rivers people desire peace? Please, let's find peace. Would you be saying that to him?
Please, the Honorable Minister, Rivers people deserve peace, and I join them to request that to embrace peace with his governor.
As News Central continues its town hall series across Nigeria, the Rivers edition underscores a powerful truth. Citizens are no longer passive observers in the theater of politics. They are demanding answers, inclusion, and above all, solutions.
We come as your children and we ask that you bless us with your peace.
In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Ifirobo.
That you give peace and soundness of mind to everyone that is represented here.
Many thanks, Israel, for that coverage. We are now joined by the lady you just saw on the screen, a social justice advocate, Hilda Dubo, and policy development expert, Jacob Pele. Both are joining us now to continue the conversation that was started in Port Harcourt. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Hilda, you were at that event. Talk to us about how important it is for citizen engagement like we saw organized today by News Central. Was it as beneficial as you thought it would be? Hilda, can you hear me? The question is for you, actually. Okay, I don't think she can hear me. So, Jake, did you get my question?
Absolutely.
Okay, please go ahead and take it on.
First of all, I want to congratulate the News Central team, Kennedy, and the team for a job well done, for standing up for democracy, for being bold to defend the rights of the Rivers people through your town hall series. Yes, we had a town hall meeting today at a point that was very heated, but then we made our points very, very clear, whether it's in the area of inclusive governance, the fact that persons with disability had never been on the lips of the sole administrator and his administration. The issue of the emergency rule that have not provided any emergency measure in alleviating the sufferings of the people of Rivers State. Whether it is the issue of the two people, Mr. Fubara and Mr. Wee, and the path to peace that both of them are towing. One thing was clear. We do not want this emergency rule to continue. We want it to end, that our elected, democratically elected governor will be returned to office, and governance of the people of Rivers State will continue. It was a welcome development that News Central took this initiative, and everyone, both sides of the divide, were able to air their opinion. We are Rivers people, resilient. We are peaceful. We may disagree, but at the end of the day, we didn't beat up each other. So it was a good and great opportunity provided by News Central.
All right.
Please permit me to keep emphasizing the fact that persons with disability have not been catered for at all by this sole administrator. I don't think he understands inclusion.
All right. I wanted to kind of gauge your thinking on the level of participation, the level of willingness. It did get heated at some point in the course of interaction. Does it give you a perception of how much the people are willing to engage in conversation and find a solution to the crisis in Rivers State?
It was a full house. It was a full house. The participation was great. The energy in the room was exciting. Yes, there were some level of disagreement and all that. But in terms of participation, at the point there was no seat. In terms of organization, I score News Central. I mean, this is your top, so you did a good job. There was no technical hitches, at least from our own end, you know. And I think there was a great audience participation across the country and even outside the country, you know.
Let's look at but I wanted us to, yes, News Central has played an important role, but we're looking at the offshoot of the conversation that was had today. There were some submissions that were made across board during that meeting, and one of them was a call for the reinstatement of Fubara as the governor. Some of the information we have on the media space rather speculates that he might not be so willing to come back considering all that has happened so far. How important do you think the federal government in this case, make a pronouncement in regards to this and perhaps the tenure of the River State sole administrator?
No, I think this is a very important question, but an opportunity to clear the air. There's never been any time that Fubara said categorically that he's not willing to come back and govern the people who elected him. There's no such statement whatsoever. When he says, when he made what looks like a politically correct statement, which a lot of people don't seem to agree with, including my humble self, you know, I think I would say he was just himself. But in political circle, we can tell me that he misspoke by saying what he said, you know. Now, one thing is very clear and precise. The fact that Fubara was elected by the people, so he cannot reject yes, he can as a person resign, but he cannot reject his office just by what is said and assumed and sometimes concocted by people. He has never said that he doesn't want to go back to the brick house or the government house in Port Harcourt.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
He has never said so.
Thank you for that clarification, but correct me if I'm wrong here. There seemed to be a consensus among citizens. I mean, we've seen protests from women, from young people, all saying that they no longer want the state of emergency that currently exists in the state. And I think that was part of the submission today at the town hall. Is there a communication mechanism between the people and the federal government enhanced by News Central's town hall meeting today towards maybe getting the government to make, again, a pronouncement on the possibility of cutting short the administration of the sole administration, especially as there seem to be concerns over how he is administering the state?
Yes, I mean, that's the power of media. You have the power to transmit information and communicate it direct to the target. And that's what this town hall have achieved today. There is no doubt that the presidency was watching, because we understood during the town hall that there were text messages being sent from Abuja. So they were watching. Secondly, the presidency has a media war room where they monitor virtually all stations. So in terms of who watched, I can tell you that the presidency did, maybe not by the president, but there were dedicated staff of the presidency that must have watched, taking notes, and eventually maybe briefed the president. But whether they did that or not, there were a lot of opportunities to communicate what resonated in that room today.
I guess that's
the communication is very clear.
I guess that's at the heart of the leadership here at News Central, to push the needle in getting solutions to our challenges. Thank you very much, Jake, for speaking with us.
You succeeded at it.
Thank you.
You were very successful at it.
Thank you very much. I would also want to say thank you to Hilda. She did try to connect, but we had issues with the audio, so we couldn't speak with her. Hopefully, we'll do that subsequently. Coming up tonight, Nigeria's headline inflation drops to 23.71% in April. We have details of this and more after the break. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Stakeholders at News Central's town hall on Rivers' state of emergency call for sincerity in addressing political crisis. House of Representatives to probe technical glitches which led to mass failure of candidates in the 2025 UTME. Ukraine's delegation heads for Istanbul as President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is not serious about peace talks. The House of Representatives has called for the establishment of at least one computer-based testing center in each of the 774 local government areas of the country for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. The lawmakers made the resolution during plenary on Thursday following the admission by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board that there were glitches in this year's examination. According to the lawmakers, the move would aid in forestalling future reoccurrence. The House also called for calm in the wake of JAMB's admission to errors in the 2025 UTME and rescheduling receipts for affected candidates. In another development, the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says Nigeria's headline inflation rate slightly dropped to 23.71% in April 2025, down from 24.23% in March. NBS announced the increase in its Consumer Price Index, CPI, on Thursday. According to the Bureau, the movement for April 2025 headline inflation rate showed a decrease of 0.52% compared to the March 2025 headline inflation rate. NBS further said the food inflation rate in April 2025 was 21.36% on a year-on-year basis. This, the Bureau said, is 19.27% lower compared to the rate recorded in April 2024, which was 40.53%. Let's have a conversation on this. Johnson Chukwu is a financial expert and CEO at Cowrie Asset. He joins to examine the inflation figures that we currently have. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Nigeria's inflation rate dropped. This is obvious. What factors do you think contributed to this, and should we expect this trend to continue in the coming months?
Thank you for having me. I think a couple of factors actually contributed to the decline in inflation in the month of April. Starting from the food inflation. Food inflation dropped to 21.26% in April. And food inflation actually increased, or food prices increased at a lower tempo compared to the increase in core inflation. So core inflation was actually the driver of inflation rate of 23.71% we saw in April. So, and when you talk of what factors led to the decrease in inflation, you have to look at there's what we call base effect. Remember that we rebased the inflation figures and then we now use the average inflation rate for last year as the base for calculating inflation in 2025. And the average inflation rate last year was 33.18%. So what we are seeing is that we're looking at what further increase in prices occurred between the average price last year and the prices that obtained in the month of April. So if you now talk of an inflation rate of 23.71%, bear in mind you are saying that in the past 2 years, between last year and April this year, average inflation has increased by first 33.18% plus another 23.71%. So you are talking of something like 55, over 50% increase in average prices over the past 55% over the past 14 months. So that's what. So in effect, we're not seeing a deflation. We're seeing increase in price at a slower rate, which is why we're talking of price levels we are 24.23% in March. They dropped to 23.71%. So base effect was one factor. Second factor, we saw obviously improvement in food production because we are just gradually moving. We're moving into the planting season, so there's still a lot of sufficient food available or reasonable level of food available. When we exit from the planting season and we go to the farming season, I would say, then you're going to see food prices begin to inch up again. Another factor that was very apparent in the month of April is that we saw exchange rate fluctuation lead to an uptick in core inflation, with the core inflation actually overtaking food inflation, which was the reverse of what we have had in the previous months.
I took a quick note of when you corrected yourself quickly from sufficient to reasonable amount of food available. I mean, some people probably would have attacked you on that one. But, I mean, with the inflation rate still significantly high, what immediate measures can the government take to alleviate the pressure on households and businesses, particularly those in the informal sector?
A couple of things. One is that the government needs to do everything to see that we see improvement in food production. The greatest pressure Nigerians get is always come from food inflation. If you even look at, if you disaggregate the inflation figure for the month of April, you realize that the greatest pressure came from food and non-alcoholic beverages, which increased by about 9.5%, 9.49% in the month of April, and followed by accommodation and restaurant food, which increased by about 3.606%. So those are the greatest pressures that we feel, which is basically food and accommodation. So one of the things the government should do is to intensify the fight against bandits, against all sorts of insecurity in major food bases of the country, and then allow for farmers to go back to their farms. Today, we have a lot of displaced people in the north central, where you have, that's only the food basket of the country, Benue, Plateau, and all the what have you. You have people displaced in the northeast and northwest. So government must do everything to fight, push back on this level of insecurity so that food production will go back to what it used to be. Nigeria used to feed itself without even knowing that that's what they call food insecurity. The second aspect is to improve food production. The pressures we saw in April mostly came from the uptick in exchange rates, which dovetailed or flushed into increase in price of imported items. Because if you recall, Donald Trump, in his Liberation Day announcement, created a lot of turmoil in the global economic space and led to Naira coming under pressure and Naira depreciating against the foreign basket of foreign currencies. That flushed into core inflation figures. So we must improve on crude oil production to achieve some level of stability in our foreign reserve and reduce the fluctuation we see in our exchange rate. Those are the two core things that the government has to do to lead to a consistent decline in food, in core inflation, in all item inflation, that is in CPI, Consumer Price Index.
It seems most of our conversation when we talk about inflation, in fact, almost everything in this country hinges on what we do with security. If you could paint us a picture, please. If there is a progressive increase in improvement in our security across the country, how much of an improvement, sounds like a repetition, but how much of an improvement we will see in the inflation rate as we have it that would translate to the common man?
Okay, if you look at the weight of food and non-alcoholic beverages in the basket of our CPI, Consumer Price Index, I think the weight has been dropped from about 52 to about 48%. So in effect, the food alone accounts for the 48% of average Nigerian household household expenditure. So if you see a drastic reduction in food prices, a reasonable reduction in food prices, that means you are going to see the pressure point of about 48% of what you spend on will come down. So that will show you the impact on average household welfare or standard of living. So that's what we have to bear in mind. The other aspects have to do with the pass-through effect of an unstable exchange rate. But if you start from the issue of food security and the food production, it accounts for about 48% of an average Nigerian household expenditure. Then followed by education and transport and all those ones. But if you deal with that, you're going to deal with almost 50% of our pressure points. And that will just give you an idea of the impact of government fighting to push back insecurity, to lead to increased food production and achieve what every country should strive to achieve, which is what's called food security. If you go to that country, that's the minimum that you expect. People that are even low-income earners don't think about how much they spend on food, because food, government push to ensure that their country citizens can feed well.
All right, I was just wondering about the fiscal policies here. The slight drop could be an opportunity for the government to reevaluate its fiscal policies. What measures would you recommend to complement monetary policy in controlling inflation and stimulating economic growth?
Okay, basically the fiscal authorities' role is one of the things I mentioned. The other aspect is as it relates to budget deficit. When you have the government spending more than its revenue is generating, it has a way of injecting excess liquidity into the economy. And that excess liquidity will lead to price pressures. They tell you that simple definition of inflation is when too much money is pursuing few goods. So the government must ensure that it keeps a lead on its deficit funding or deficit financing. And where the deficit financing, it is not funded by ways and means. It's not funded by borrowing from the central bank. So that way we will maintain some level of stability in the currency or in circulation, and then take out the pressure that comes from excessive liquidity injection from government or fiscal authorities. That's one aspect that they would do to help the monetary authorities. But largely, managing price level is the role of monetary authorities. And good thing, there will be another meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee in the next couple of days. And among the things they will be discussing, which is the core issue, is that they will look at what has happened to exchange rate, what is the outlook of our external factors, capital flow, export earnings, and then they look at what is the level of consumer price index. Like we are just talking about 23.71%, and they will ask themselves, do we expect the moderation to continue before they take a decision, either to hold rates, tighten, or loosen? So these are factors that will determine how the economy pans out, the macroeconomic outlook, and achieving macroeconomic stability. But the fiscal authority, which your core question is that they must do something to make sure they don't inject excess liquidity into the economy that will counterbalance what the monetary authorities have been doing.
Johnson, thank you as always for giving us your time and providing insight.
Thank you for having me.
Tonight returns in a moment. Do stay with us. All right, we're going to go back a bit to the town hall that News Central just had in Rivers State on the state of emergency and the political situation in the state. We have her now, social justice advocate Hilda Dubo. Hilda, thank you for speaking with us tonight. You've had a long day with your participation today at the town hall. Talk to us about your general impression of how impactful gatherings like this could be in pushing for solutions.
Thank you so much for having me and for your patience too with all the technical issues around that. I'd like to say it was a beautiful event. And it gave everyone the opportunity to vent. Those who wanted to, who have been waiting for opportunity to say what they think, it gave everyone the opportunity. Importantly is, at least it's clear to everyone that River State, River people need peace so their land and state can be developed. And that a few people are willing to shift positions, make compromises to ensure that we earn that peace. That was clear at the meeting. It was also clear that there were people who really don't care. They're just, standing by and, as they say, fanning the embers of war for no reason. Okay, so. But I think in all, we're all ready to have a peaceful reverse.
The state of emergency is not something a lot of people continue to be in support of, and it's been there for a while. You're a resident. What is your assessment of the comments that were made today as regards its continuity or the possibility of the federal government cutting it short?
Let's just be clear. Nobody likes the state of emergency. Nobody. Even those who are saying it should continue, They just remind me of the story of the two kids, the King Solomon story, where the woman whose child was dead, when asked what they should do with the living child, said, cut him into two. So you could see what their anger is and why they're saying what they're saying. Not that they even believe it, they don't. They don't believe that the state of emergency should continue. We think that thing should come to an end so that the state can return to itself and then we can begin to build like we were already building before all of this.
I really hope, I wish we had more time, Hilda, but we have to end this. So I'll just give you about 30 or 40 seconds to respond to this. What key message for those who are truly concerned and committed to restoration of democratic rule in a Rivers State, what key message will you share with them after your experience with the New Central Town Hall today in regards to, their push for reestablishing what is legal?
Let's all stay open and optimistic. We all can make this work.
Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Let's tell you that the House of Representatives has urged the Nigerian police, the Nigerian Army and other security agencies to intensify efforts in ending the spate of killings and kidnappings in Irodo-Jese, Ethiop West local government area of Delta State. This followed a motion of urgent public importance raised on the floor of the House by lawmaker Eriatake Ibodi-Swenu, who expressed concern over the loss of lives and displacement of residents in the affected communities. Ibodi-Swenu also called for the provision of relief materials to support victims and families that are affected. The House further urged the Inspector General of Police to deploy a special squad to protect lives, restore peace in the area, and conduct a thorough investigation to identify and prosecute the perpetrators, thereby delivering justice to the affected communities.
Aware that the rising wave of insecurity in the area threatens not only the peace and stability of the community, but also broader security architecture of Delta State. Cognizant of the constitutional obligation of the government to protect the lives and properties of its citizens as enshrined in the Section 14(2)(b) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Concerns that the continuous attack, if left unchecked, could further escalate the tension and disrupt the peaceful coexistence in the region.
Let's head quickly to the Vatican, where President Bola Tinubu has been invited to join other world leaders in Rome for the inauguration of the new Catholic pontiff, Pope Leo XIV. Presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga revealed in a statement on Thursday that President Tinubu will depart Abuja on Saturday. He will be accompanied by top Catholic leaders and will attend a solemn mass marking the beginning of the pontificate of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, the 267th Bishop of Rome and the new leader of the Roman Catholic Church. In the papal invitation sent by Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Pope Leo XIV underscored the need for President Tinubu's physical presence. One of our headlines tonight, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is not serious about peace negotiations, but he is still open to face-to-face talks with President Vladimir Putin. This comes after President Putin refused to attend face-to-face talks with President Zelensky in Turkey. Instead of showing up in person, Putin sent what Kyiv described as a second-tier delegation to Istanbul. Russia, in turn, accused Ukraine of staging the talks for publicity and denied any lack of commitment. Meanwhile, former U.S. President I think that will be U.S. President Donald Trump added to skepticism, saying no real progress will happen without a direct meeting between himself and President Putin.
Представлено. Щодо адженди, мандат у них буде припинення вогню номер 1. Тобто вони полетять. Хоча я досі вважаю, що Росія продовжує несерйозно ставитись до цих зустрічей, не хоче закінчувати війну, але будемо надіятися, що вони продемонструють хоч...
Business news is next after this break. Perpetua is here with the latest business stories for tonight. Perpetua, what are we looking at?
Well, the federal government has raised the procurement limit for MDAs, and this, of course, is to align with current economic conditions like inflation and market dynamics. Well, there is a lot more, but we will go on a break. After that, you get to hear everything. President Bola Tinubu has approved a thorough review of public procurement thresholds for ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government. In a statement, Zira Naga, head of public relations at the Bureau of Public Procurement, confirmed that the approval followed recommendations from Adebowale Adedokun, the Director General of the BPP. Under the new guidelines, contracts exceeding 10 billion naira for works and 5 billion naira for consultancy services will require approval from the Federal Executive Council. Oil prices declined on Thursday amid anticipation of a U.S.-Iran nuclear agreement, which could lead to sanctions being eased and an increased supply of oil in global markets. Brent crude futures dropped by $1.47 to $64.62 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell by $1.43 to $61.72 per barrel. U.S. President Donald Trump announced that negotiations for a nuclear deal with Iran were advancing, with Tehran having sort of agreed to the proposed terms. Meanwhile, the International Energy Agency raised its oil demand growth forecast for 2025 to 740,000 barrels per day, an increase of 20,000 barrels per day from its previous estimate, citing improved economic growth projections and lower oil prices bolstering consumption. And now to stock markets. The bulls continue to dominate the Nigerian equities market as buying interest in Transcorp Hotel and Nestle drove the benchmark index higher. Consequently, the month-to-date and year-to-date returns improved to 3.5% and 6.4% respectively. Now let's take a look at the snapshot. We have it up there. That's the Otse index is up 37 basis points, closing 109,467.64. And you have the market capitalization at 68.8 trillion naira. Now to sectoral performance. For sectoral performance, the banking index edged up with actions skewed toward tier 1 tickers, and Access Corporation led the way. Here you have it, 20 basis points up for the banking sector. And now you have the insurance sector, which of course is flat. Away from that, we have the oil and gas sector down 18 basis points. For consumer goods, it actually stole the show again today, and it's now up over 11% month to date. Now, talk about honey flour and NNFM. They notched impressive gains, while Nestle posted a rally, 10% rally to 1,331 naira. So that's why you have the consumer goods having 116 basis points. And finally, we have industrial goods closing 18 basis points. And that's a wrap on Business Tonight. I am Perpetua Fasami Peter. Tonight continues.
Out of the game, it seems, for Nigeria in the under-20 AFCON. Onyi, how true is this and how painful for football lovers?
Yes, very painful, because this battle between Amapiano and Ojopiano from the under-20 level has been settled. So it's Amapiano all the way. South Africa through to the final of the under-20 African Cup of Nations. I'll tell you more shortly, Felicity. In sport, South Africa edged Nigeria 1-0 at the Suez Canal Stadium in Ismaila to book their place in the final of the Under-20 African Cup of Nations, dashing the hosts of Flying Eagles for their 8th continental title. Now, despite dominating much of the contest and creating several chances, Nigeria were undone by a second-half goal from a header from Tylan Smith in the 68th minute, stemming from a costly error by substitute goalkeeper Ajay Yakub, who replaced the injured Ebenezer Harcourt. The victory sent South Africa to their first Under-20 African Cup of Nations final since 1997, ending Nigeria's hopes of capturing a record 8th title. The Flying Eagles will face host Egypt in the 3rd place match after they lost in the semi-final to Morocco. Of course, all 4 semi-finalists have qualified for the 2025 FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Chile later this year. The race for the 2025 Nigeria Women's Football League title has been blown wide open following results on match day 4. In the first match, defending champions Edo Queens edged Bayelsa Queens with a narrow 1-0 victory thanks to Goodness Osigwe's goal just before halftime at the 45th minute. The result ended Bayelsa's impressive 17-match unbeaten run. In the day's second fixture, Rivers Angels dominated Niger Rattles with a convincing 2-0 win. Titilayo Aweda opened the scoring in the 25th minute, while Mary Moses sealed the victory in the 88th minute. The final match of the day saw host Remo Stars Ladies play out a goalless draw with Nasarawa Amazons. It's all to play for the final day when leaders Nasarawa Amazons, they battle Edo Queens, Remo Stars Ladies take on Rivers Angels, and Bayelsa Queens will face Niger Rattles on Saturday. 3 Premier League members from Liverpool, the title-winning squad, have been nominated for the Premier League Player of the Season award. Captain Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah and Ryan Gravenberch lead the 8-player shortlist after helping the Reds to a 20th league title. Nottingham Forest are the only other club with more than one nominee, with midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White included, alongside with striker Chris Wood. Also nominated are Newcastle striker Alexander Isak, Brentford forward Brian Mbeumo, while Arsenal midfielder Declan Rice completed the list. Africa's top-ranked table tennis stars Aruna Quadri of Nigeria and Hannah Goder of Egypt, they will begin their quest for the global glory on Saturday, May 17, as the 2025 ITTF World Championship gets underway in Doha, Qatar. The prestigious tournament will begin, together with the world's elite players, at the state-of-art Lusail Multi-Sport Hall and Qatar University Sport Complex. Athletes will compete across 5 major events: men's and women's singles, men's and women's doubles, and the mixed doubles. Haruna, the first African to reach the quarterfinals of the World Championship, will open his campaign in the men's singles against Brazil's Victor Ishi. A familiar opponent, he defeated 4-2 at the 2021 edition in Houston, United States. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaru. The news continues with Felicity.
The voice here for entertainment stories. Chris Brown in custody?
Well, it seems like our celebrities always find their way in trouble.
I don't know.
And not just Chris Brown, but it's always a back and forth with law cases and issues. But definitely, I'll bring you all the details shortly. And on entertainment, on the local scene, a controversial social media personality, Martins Otse, popularly known as VeryDarkMan, VDM, was rearraigned on Thursday before Justice Musa Liman of the Federal High Court in Abuja. He faces a 5-count charge of alleged cyberbullying targeted at actress Tonto Dike and Iyabo Ojo, as well as music producer Sam Clef and others. VDM pleaded not guilty to all charges. His lawyer, Deji Adeoju, requested that VDM continue on the 10 million naira bail earlier granted by Justice Mobolaji Olajuwon, which includes 2 sureties from reputable companies or senior federal civil servants. Now, the prosecution did not oppose the request, and the judge upheld the previous bail conditions. The court adjourned the trial to July 24th, 2025. Now, speaking about another court issue, Chris Brown was arrested early Thursday morning at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester in connection with a 2023 nightclub assault in London. The Metropolitan Police detained a 36-year-old on suspicion of grievous bodily harm related to an alleged unprovoked bottle attack on music producer Abe Dwar at Tape nightclub in Mayfair on February 19, 2023. Chris Brown had arrived in the UK via private jet just a day earlier, prompting detectives to travel to Manchester after his location was revealed by the media. He remains in custody at a local police station while investigations continue. Felicity, I know you want to talk about Chris Brown.
First up, it's like the guy doesn't age. I don't know why that was thinking in my head. He's been around for such a long time, and he's just 36, you say?
Yes, he is.
It's amazing. But why do they get themselves into all these situations?
Sometimes you feel that these celebrities don't know that they are big and they have a reputation to manage, but they just react to things. And you know, Chris Brown had a point in time where he went for anger management therapy, so that again can be a cause to his overreacting to situations sometimes. But hey, Chris Brown is a role model still, but people are still concerned that if he reacts this way as a celebrity and he gets arrested, doesn't this, you know, tarnish his image a bit, being the fact that he's a role model? What do you think?
Role model or no role model, I always believe that they're human beings first, and they have their failings. So yeah. Well, wish him luck. Get out soon.
He should be out soon. But that's all we have on entertainment tonight.
Finally on the news tonight, it was double celebration in the historic city of Ibadan, Oyo State, as veteran journalist, media entrepreneur, philanthropist, and statesman Dele Modu marked his 65th birthday and unveiled the Dele Modu Leadership Center, an initiative of the Dele Modu Foundation. My colleague Oluwakemi Alimi brings us details.
The event attracted dignitaries, friends, and well-wishers from across the country, including the governor of Osun State, Ademola Adeleke, who attended as special guest of honor.
Modu is a unique breed, a genius with humility, and a free mind with progressive ideas. I again congratulate my brother on a dream come true. as a resource center hosting valuable book material alongside training programs. I believe the new generation now has a center that will link the past to the present to a collectively prosperous future.
The newly inaugurated Dele Momodu Leadership Center is a charitable initiative aimed at supporting academic excellence and leadership development in Nigeria. The center includes reading rooms and libraries designed to facilitate research and capacity building for students and scholars. Momodu says the project was inspired by the Rockefeller Foundation.
We have our own Dele Momodu Leadership Center owned by the Dele Momodu Foundation, and now scholars will be able to apply to use our 5-star facility.
In a series of heartfelt tributes, speakers praised Momodu for his steadfast mentorship, visionary leadership, philanthropy, and generosity. He was described by many as a dependable ally and a rare gem in Nigeria's media and public service landscape.
I nicknamed my friend Dele Ojogbogbobiyodun. Every time you run into him, he's never sorrowful. He always has a way of bringing life of every situation. Dele Momodu is my mentor. He's a man that has taught us a lot of stuff. We learn leadership through him. We learn responsibility through him. We learn a lot of stuff from him.
He's like a mentor to me. I've learned a lot from him, and I'll continue to. He inspires me, inspires a lot of us, to be who we are.
As Dele Momodu turns 65, the launch of the Leadership Center stands as a testament to a life of influence and a future anchored in service, education, and legacy.
You can be Mr. World, you can be Mr. Africa, you can be Mr. Nigeria. We can nothing can be done.
In Oyo, for News Central, Oluwakemi Alimi.
Is celebrated is to have lived. Congratulations to Dele Momodu one more time, and that's what we have for you tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. Stakeholders at New Central's Town Hall on Rivers' state of emergency call for sincerity in addressing political crisis. House of Representatives to probe technical glitches which led to mass failure of candidates in the 2025 UTME. Ukraine's delegation heads for Istanbul as President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia is not serious about peace talks. We'd love to hear from you. Please send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can do that by following us on all social media platforms as well at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Arrow TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for your kind company. Have a good night.